I'd like to call to order the Tuesday, November 16th, 2021 regular meeting of the Frankfort Plant Board to order. Madam Secretary, would you call the roll?
Member DeLong?
Present.
Member Keyvine?
Here.
Member Mason?
Here.
Member Snyder?
Here.
Member Dutton Mitchell?
Here.
We have a quorum. We're authorized to do business. Item number 2, approval of minutes. If everybody has them in front of them, had a chance to look at them, does anybody have any corrections, changes? If not, do we have a motion to approve the minutes of October 19th, 2021 board meeting?
So moved.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and second. Any further discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Minutes are approved. Item 3, consider accepting financial report for the month ending October 31st, 2021. Mr. Denton.
Thank you, Mr. Keyvine, members of the board. Good evening. Tonight we're presenting financial statements for the first 4 months of this fiscal year ending October 31st, 2021. You might remember that we did cover our annual audit report for the year ending June 30, 2021 last meeting. That report is out on FPB's website for anyone that would like to go out and see it. It was a clean and unmodified opinion. So that is out there for everyone to view. Looking at where we are today, we have in your board packet on pages 27 through 103, we provided the statement of net position, our balance sheet, financial statements for all of our 3 main divisions and all of our administrative departments, checking registers for our 2 most active checking accounts, summaries of all of our bank activity, and statistics for the first 4 months and historical for the year. I covered the balance sheet pretty in depth last month. There's not a whole lot that's changed from a month ago with the balance sheet. Looking at our financial performance for the year, we are very much in line with a year ago operating income, and we have kept expenses below prior year for the first 4 months. So we're on track with budget as we expected. So I'd be glad, there's a lot of information in the packet. I'd be glad to answer any questions the board may have, but we're holding steady for the first 4 months of the year.
One thing, David, we had talked about briefly is, I think customers are probably hearing a lot on the news about winter prices, that home heating oil, different things are going up in prices. Would you want to just, or maybe your event, just confirm especially for the people that, are watch in terms of what our rates are during the winter and that there won't be any changes there that we're not expecting or passing on any increases in that manner?
Absolutely. Well, if we look at electric cost, the Frankfort Plant Board has had the same electric rate since July of 2017, and we do not expect or have any rate increases planned for our electric rates. So any changes in your bill would be totally due to the change in usage at your home or business. Frankfort Plant Board has locked in rates with our wholesale power provider, and that's the positive there of having locked in power purchase agreements and rates set with our wholesale power provider. So yes, we will have rates the same throughout this entire fiscal year. Same with our water rates. And the only change in our telecom is probably our cable TV. We do have providers, programmers and broadcasters continue to raise rates year after year that we pass on. But other than that, your home energy with respect to electricity should be stable.
Does anybody have any questions of David regarding our financials, any of the expenditures or anything that y'all like to ask him about? One other question, David, and this is something that I know you shared information with everyone. Back several months ago, we adopted a resolution or motion that if the consumer price index for all employees, that the consumer price index was above 6%, 5% on when they come out in the first week in December, which would be for November. If they were above 5%, employees would all get $500 grossed up so that they would get the full value of the $500 in January as a one-time adjustment against inflation. And I know you've done some work to take a look at where we are right now, financials, in terms of, how we're doing. And if the board wanted, and we don't have to take any action right now, but if the board wanted, we could up that to $1,000 for each employee, not grossed up, just straight out. It would be a little bit more expensive than what we had originally projected, but based on what you're looking at, we still should be able to do that. Is that correct? If the board wanted to?
Yes, sir. The board, we're currently tracking about $220,000 below our payroll budget through the first 4 months of the year. If the current approved action to give employees $500 grossed up, which means they would get that 500 plus the Social Security, Medicare, income tax, and KPPA retirement contribution included. So they get a net 500 benefits, about 182,000. If we were to do a $1,000 one-time payment, where the employees are still responsible for their retirement contribution and income taxes, that it increases about $100,000 to $279,000. So I do believe we're in a situation, if the board wanted to go that direction, we could make it fit into the budget.
And if the board took action in December, that would allow you all time to whichever way the board wants to go, that would give you all time to make that payment in January. Is that correct?
Yes, sir. That would be sufficient time for us.
Okay. Does anybody have any questions or anything they want to ask David about, or
John,
Sure.
John, I've got a couple of questions if you don't mind.
Yes, sir.
First off, David, thank you for the summary information, the statistical information you gave us about the past due accounts. Looks like really good news. The number of past due accounts is almost back seemingly to historical what the number is. The amount's a little higher, but is that going to, you think, as people continue on their payment plans, that number will continue to go down? We feel good about that?
Yes, sir, we do. And you're right. We have we had our peak of past due balances that we rolled month to month of 3.2 million back in October of 20. And we're now down $2 million, down to about 1.2 million. And you're right, historically, we're looking at the number of past due accounts below what we saw pre-COVID, but the average balance, past due balance, is higher. We are, Cassie is going to provide in our customer service report some numbers on that, but we are seeing, working those payments down. I think we have less than 700 payment plans, payment arrangements, and that we were up into a couple of thousand payment arrangements. So we're continuing to work through those. And if I had assistance from various third-party federal and state assistance, that's helped as well. So we're going in the right direction and should be back to historical levels once we work through these payment arrangements.
One of the questions, Mr. Chairman, and this,
Yes, sir.
I don't know if Cassie's going to deal with this later or not, but speaking of government powers, government assistance and government programs, where are we on EBB in terms of the number of people who have signed up for that? And do we have any idea where that running clock in Washington in terms of the amount of money, where that money is?
With regards to the EBB, currently at the end of October, we had approximately 488 customers that were participating in it. We are still doing the $50 a month plan. However, there is talk that that's going to be reduced to $30 and become a permanent program. We don't have any specifics on that yet. Once we receive that, we'll of course convey that to all those existing customers and still encourage new people to sign up. But right now it remains at the approximate $50 a month with 488 customers participating right now.
Thank you, Cassie. Appreciate it.
Cassie,
Thank you.
Cassie, when you said you heard that it could be 30, was that in either the infrastructure bill that just passed or the other bill that's pending in Congress, or was there some other federal legislation on that you heard about?
That was actually something I heard in our staff meeting this morning. I'm not certain where that specific data came from. That came from a staff meeting we had, and I don't believe it's anything that has been put into place yet, just something that has been proposed as possibly becoming permanent at that rate.
Okay.
Mr. Cuban, this is Gary Zhang. And based on the information we received, that's the bill already been signed. That a $1 trillion bill.
That was in the infrastructure bill?
Part of it, yes.
Okay.
Reduce the benefit EBB from 50 to 30, but it will make that as a permanent program.
Okay. Okay.
But we are still waiting the FCC eventually give the detailed ruling. So we're
Right.
going to watch that very carefully when accordingly the change the
Okay.
BC.
Okay.
Mr.
John.
Chair,
Yes.
I just wanted to say that I appreciate the efforts. I know Kathy Lindsay is still trying to put the word out to the public about EBB eligibility. And for many people in Frankfort, it's not an income-based eligibility.
Right.
And also thanks to particularly the superintendent at the Frankfort Independent Schools for continuing to put the word out to all his students and their families who are all eligible.
And especially,
John,
there's
real
even
quick.
more reason for families, if it's going to be a permanent benefit, that's even more reason for families to sign up, because I know maybe there was some reluctance thinking it wasn't going to be around long, and why sign up if it's going to be gone next month. But from what we're hearing, it's an ongoing benefit. So,
Yeah, can I jump in just a second? This is Kathy.
Kathy, who?
Lindsay. I just I wanted to say that, yeah, when EBB launched, you know, back in May, and then it, you know, it took us a month or so to get it, you know, make sure that we were following the rules and get it implemented here. And we did an all-out launch on getting it out as far as through our media channels. We had it on, you know, on the State Journal, billboards, radio. We talked about it on the show, but then we also reached out to groups, you know, like the superintendents. I presented at the city commission meeting, presented to all the civic clubs, and I had correspondence with like the local ministerial group, to all the pastors in town, to talk about share this information with your congregations. Shared it with Bluegrass Community Action Partnership, shared it with the Salvation Army. So, you know, we're reaching out beyond just what we do through the media, but we're reaching out to local groups in the community to make sure that they know about this. We've passed out information like at Candlelight. We were at National Night Out, and we passed out information. And I know that I've talked to Gary. We're going to reach out again directly to the superintendents to make sure that they're passing this information along to their students. I am going to suggest that now that this change has come with the infrastructure bill and these changes, there's going to be changes made, and the FCC is going to have to adopt some new rules. And then after that, we'll have 60 days, I think, to implement those rules and those changes. I say when we know what those changes are going to be exactly that have been adopted by the FCC, and then we have the time to implement those in our EBB program, that's when we'll do another push out again to those groups, and then again to the schools and stuff, to make sure that you know, they have all the most up-to-date information, and that we're getting that out again to those groups that need that information.
Okay. Thanks for everything you and your team did on that, Kathy.
Well, thank you. We're here to serve, you know.
Yeah. Any other questions for David?
Yeah, John, I had a question
Yes,
back
sir.
on the, I guess the money. How many budgeted, how many personnel positions budgeted but are vacant are in this current budget, and what's the valuation of that?
Mr. Mason, we definitely have that information. I couldn't line item it right now in the meeting, but I could definitely get that information to you. I know we have had success recently. We've hired 2 staff members in our NOC department that we had budgeted, so that is very good. We are fully staffed now in our customer service department. We were running a little behind there with some staff that had left in our CSR job titles there, that we've got fully staffed now, fully staffed in our meter reading. And IT has had a couple of recent hires in positions that were open. So I know we'll be moving in the right direction, but I know there are some open positions. I'll be glad to get that information to you this week.
Okay.
Any further questions for David? If not, do we have a motion to accept the financial statements?
So move.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? If not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Financials are accepted. Thank you, Mr. Denton. Ms. Poe, do you have any informational items in terms of public comments?
No, sir, we didn't receive any.
Any web comments?
No, sir.
Next item is on departmental reports. Vin, are you going to be the master of ceremonies?
Yes, sir. That would be me.
Okay.
I will start with telecom as always, and then I'll let certain people jump in with a few reports here that the board likes to hear every month on next band AMI and the reservoir. So to start out, your telecom report is on page 105 through 108. It's a regular report as you're used to seeing it. We had 2 outages for October. The first outage was Tanglewood and the west side of Capitol Avenue, and the second was in Node 36 and the Turnberry area off of Rolling Acres. The trouble call number is down versus this time last year. I will let Adam, if he wants to jump in and give us the next band update of how that project is going right now.
Yeah, good evening. Next band. So right now, installation in Shadrick Ferry, we have 19 active customers, 7 pending installs. And once again, these most of these areas were overhead to underground utilities, so it's taking a little longer getting them connected because we're having to go in and place service drops and conduits, but that's moving along pretty good. Construction crews are over by Node 14, Mr. Mason's area, installing the fiber now that all the conduits they've put in and starting to splice that. The underground crew has moved over to Augusta, which is off Carville Lane there. It's a little area underground in Node 34. They should wrap that up this week, which is good. So as soon as they get the conduits in, we'll follow behind and get in the fiber and start splicing that area on and trying to get Node 34 activated, which runs out Louisville Road there, Willow Crest and that area. The overhead crew is in Node 36, which is over here by the cable building and East Main, Crestwood subdivision. They've put up a lot of fiber. They've been splicing some of that, so they'll continue to place that fiber and splice it. We have our starting our call campaign in Collins Lane area, probably the next week or two. After we do this campaign, we did the initial campaign we did was trying to, just get our arms around things and get some testing. So we're going to do another area in Collins Lane, and then probably, depending on how that turns out, we'll probably go on and Kathy can talk about it, but we'll actually have an official launch somewhere around the first of the year. So, but this is just another testing ground, a little bit bigger area to get some customers turned on. We're also sending out an RFP, hopefully this week or next week, for contract labor. And this contract will help offset the additional labor we have with, next band as we start to ramp that up. The last thing I have is not really next band related, but the tower crew was on site today, and they're going to start placing those piers for the foundation and hopefully get those poured by the end of the week. And so probably, 5 to 6 weeks after that, they'll probably be on site and start erecting the steel for the tower. We're trying to work with the water department, with the reservoir, and of course we get the substation there too, trying to make sure we all have enough room to work around each other. So anybody have any questions?
Okay.
Vin?
If no one has any questions, I'll continue on with the electric department. That report is on page 113 through 116 in your board packet. And you'll see there our SAIDI number is 27.47, like usually somewhere in that range, which is always a good number. The department is primarily working on 2 of its budget projects right now, the Tiger Grant and the reconductor of Circuit 132. So that is keeping our crews busy right now. I'll let Travis jump in with his AMI report, and then I will continue on with SEPA from there.
All right, sure. For the AMI project, we've installed 2,185 electric and 1,771 water meters so far. The primary focus of the project team right now is ensuring the over-the-air billing transition goes smooth, making sure all the data integrity, billing integrity is good. That's kind of everybody's primary focus right now. The supply chain issues that we've talked about quite a bit, they continue to persist, but haven't really stopped us or slowed us down that much. We're just kind of taking them into account with everything we do and, phasing things out, make sure we kind of supply keeps up with the progress. So otherwise everything's going pretty smooth.
About how long
happy
does it
to-
take? About how long does it take Travis at a house to install the AMI? If a typical residential house, how long would they be there on
Yeah.
site?
Yeah, so 15 minutes, half an hour-ish, somewhere in that neighborhood. Hopefully, for water, a lot of times you shouldn't experience any service interruption, so shouldn't be much of a disruption there. Electric, your power will most likely go out for a short period. We're trying to keep it in that kind of 15 minutes or less range where we can.
And you probably want to remind people that when our people show up like that, they'll be in uniforms, or they'll have ID, they'll be in our trucks, that when people are going around their house, I mean, that our people have the proper identification and everything.
Their trucks should have if it's an FPB installer, of course, they should have an FPB logo. If it's with the AMI vendor, they should also have an ID. They'll have a UMS logo, and they should have a contractor for FPB logo on their truck. And of course, if anybody ever has any questions, we encourage them to call in and ask and make sure. And if there's any issue, we want to get right on it. So.
Okay. Thanks, Travis.
Yep. Thank you.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Maybe that should be put on cable 10 or something, the logo, the vendor logo, because, a lot of people still won't remember or know, when someone knocks on their door, that it's actually FPB. So more awareness of what that looks like, how the most effective way to get it out there.
Sure. Yeah. Their logo is on some of the marketing materials. Like we have a door hanger that has both of our logos on it. But yeah, I'll get with Kathy again and see, if she has more ideas on how we can get that word out there, just to be sure. Absolutely.
Okay. If there are no more questions, I'll continue on with the SEPA report. That is on page 117 through 119. And you'll notice for the month of September, we cleared $101,425. So for the calendar year, that puts us up 1.233 million. So it looks like this year is going to be the best year we've had as far as returns on SEPA to our bottom line. So that's good. So we're progressing pretty well with that. And on page 123 to 125 is your water report. So the construction crews, they're continuing with their line replacement projects over on Highland Parkway. And they have also completed the new main installation on Fillmore Court. And they're in process of making the road repairs there. And the crews are also in the process of preparing to start a new 30-inch feed at the reservoir as part of that project. Working on the piping out in the field. And the crews have completed our annual hydrant flushing program, excuse me. And so I'll turn it over to David Billings and let him give you a reservoir update, and then I'll do water treatment plant.
Good evening, board. We had a construction progress meeting on November the 10th. We have received and approved our 6th payment request, which represents about 53% of the contract amount. If you've been by the site, you've noticed the tank dome has been completed. Upcoming work in the next month will be completing the pre-stressing of the tank exterior. The contractor indicates that the tank is on schedule and the tank should be completed in December. I wanted to remind the public that just because the tank is scheduled to be completed next month, there is still a lot of work to be done, both by the contractor and the Frankfort Plant Board. The Frankfort Plant Board has a very complex piping project to connect the tank into the system, both in the front and the back. To date, we have bid and ordered materials and are under contract for the line stop in the front. Due to the long lead times with the current supply chain issues, we're expecting those items to be available in the February and March timeframe. We had a meeting with the contractor last week and discussed the schedule. The contractor stated that he understood the delays with the supply chain management and would coordinate with us and continue working in the areas that he can be working. But at this time, we do expect the demolition of the north basin, the landscaping, and the paving to be delayed into the summer timeframe. We also are fully anticipate that we will be informing Ms. Hale as well as the neighborhood associations so they are aware of the delay. I'll be happy to answer any questions.
So when you say the summer time frame, David, that would be the materials come in And when would be the first time water would actually be going into the new tank? In the summer time frame?
In the summer time frame, probably, yes.
Okay.
See, he can't complete his work until we complete our work, and we
Right.
can't complete our work till he gets some work done. So we have to coordinate the two.
Right.
It's the chicken and the egg sometimes.
Yeah. Yeah.
But anyway.
But no, I have been by it. I mean, it's, it seemed like one time I went by and all the rebar was sticking straight up. And the next time I went by, the dome was on, was being poured on top. I mean, it's pretty amazing how they did it.
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
We're very happy with the contractor so far.
Yeah.
Yeah, they've been very.
Any questions of David?
Okay, if not, I will move on to the water treatment plant report. So that is on page 127. It's again your standard report used to seeing. For the month of October, the water treatment plant treated 218.7 million gallons of water for an average daily production of a little over 7 million gallons a day. Lock 4 averaged 3,770 cubic feet per second for a daily average of 2.4 billion gallons per day of water passing over the dam. And we had about 3.6 inches of rainfall recorded for the month of October. So if the board doesn't have any questions of me on those reports, I will turn it over to Cassie Estel and the customer service report, but I'll be happy to answer any questions the board might have.
Any questions for Ben? If not, Cassie?
Good evening, members of the board. Just to give you a brief update, our customer service reports are on pages 109 to 112 of your packet. It has our standard reports. And then we touched briefly on EBB, but again, that number is 488 so far. And with regards to past due accounts, I know David mentioned the total dollar figure. I just wanted to give you all kind of a summary of this time last year is when we implemented the mass original payment plans related to the initial COVID pandemic, and any account that had a past due balance that accumulated during that time frame was placed into a payment plan. And we had approximately 4,800 accounts that applied to at that time. 1 year later, we're down to about 600 accounts. So we are definitely making significant progress and continuing to work with people and getting that back to a normal standard number for FPB. And so far, continue to encourage people to apply through the Kentucky Housing. They apparently still have funds and are still working through their applications. To date, we've received about $650,000 from that program towards past due accounts that qualified for the COVID relief with that grant. So
650,000?
Yes, sir.
Wow.
That's since we started receiving payments from them, which was a few months ago, but to date it was 652,817 to be exact is the amount we got from finance. And then I'd be happy to answer any questions you all have.
Now, has people started signing up for LIHEAP for this coming winter? They've already started signing up, haven't they?
Yes, our LIHEAP will start this month, and that's through the regular Bluegrass Community Action. Those people will still apply like normal based on the alphabet of their last name. That schedule is traditionally the same every year and starts the first or second week of November. And they have people come based on the alphabet of their last name. And then they have makeup days at the end of that. And to my knowledge, they've started that program and it's going as it has in the past. Yes, sir.
Okay. Any questions of Cassie?
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, sir.
If I could be so rude as to interrupt one more time, I forgot that the board wanted an update on the community solar project, how that was, and I was going to have Travis do that, and that I overlooked that. I apologize. Travis, would you give that for the board?
Sure, be happy to. So we've had 2 community solar meetings so far. We had our kickoff meeting and kind of a brief follow-up to that. The main focus at this point has been trying to narrow down the where of where we would want a community solar project to be. The plant board staff has provided all of our board-owned properties. I've also provided them with any, what I call kind of like a public property, city, county, school board owned, just kind of gave them everything to start to filter through. So they're looking through, trying to find any property that doesn't have kind of a critical flaw, if you will, too small, or the terrain is not correct, or, too many trees basically that would get in the way, that kind of stuff. So they're working through that right now. We're trying to push them to, if possible, get some information back to us before the end of the year. But they understand the absolute deadline is going to be prior to those budget meetings, January, April, March, March, April, May, that kind of time frame. They understand the board is going to want that information going into the budget discussion. So we're really pushing for that. Had several conversations about the community engagement process. What their recommendation at meetings is let's try and bring the project into focus a little bit instead of going out to the public with just, no real expectations internally of where we would want to do it or what size the project would be. The concern was the responses could kind of be all over the place. So we want to focus the project a little bit, get some maybe some better expectations of what we think the project will look like, and then really start to ramp up those community engagement activities.
And I think you had talked about, or Catherine, I think you had mentioned the community engagement will really start taking place, in January, February, is that right?
Probably more like February.
Okay.
Yes. And that'll be important. And the plant board's taking the lead on that community engagement as opposed to our consultant.
Okay. So we'll get back some information from them, and that'd be the basis to do the community engagement. Is that correct?
Yeah, and I don't know that we would necessarily have to wait to the very end. That we, that may make sense. We'll kind of see how it progresses. But yeah, the idea is let's try and get a better understanding of what's feasible, what we want to do, what we can do, instead of going out to the public and just kind of being all over the place, if that makes sense. So that's kind of been the approach. And yes, that's correct. Our internal team will lead those activities.
Okay. Vin, next item.
That was it for me, Mr. Chairman. We'll turn it over to, I don't know if Knock was next or if...
We've still got Knock, Safety, and KYMEA, I'm sorry.
Mr. Chairman, I can report for KYMEA. KYMEA had a board meeting before our board meeting, their regular board meeting last month. Basically, they approved the additional 32 megawatts contract in Ashwood, which is the KYME can have a total 86 megawatts if that all construction available. So that's the things I definitely like to report to the board and also to the community. Because last board meeting, you authorized me to vote for it. And I just want you to know KYME would vote unanimously to support that.
Okay. Update on the knock or on safety?
I'll do the knock report. Good evening. You find the knock report, I think, on page 129 of your board packet. You'll notice that in October, the knock staff handled 2,022 phone calls. And on the locate side of the house, we did 749 locates, which is a little busier than the last 3 or 4 months, but it's on track with spring. So a little uptick. It's always busy anymore, so it doesn't go down a whole lot. So year to date, we've done 7,174 locates, and then across 3 services, that totals 21,522. So pretty busy. I'm excited to say that our 3rd locator that you guys approved a while back started yesterday, was his first day, and today was the first day in the field. So we have a full staff of locators, and hopefully they'll hit the ground running, and we won't have much issue going forward, even though things seem to get busier and busier, especially with maybe more money coming available from the federal side of the house for more broadband and more water projects and stuff like that. So that'll just bring more work into next year. But everything's going well, and at least we're staffed for a change fully.
Okay. Safety report.
I'll be happy to report the safety report. If you look at your board package on page 121 and 122,
We had an excellent month in the month of October. There were no OSHA recordables or no vehicle accidents, sir.
Okay, good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Does anybody on the board have any questions about any of the reports that staff presented? Okay. If not, we'll go to item 6.1, consider approving the request from the Humane Society encroachment for grading purposes. Sharmista is going to set it up for us, and I think we've got a guest from the Humane Society tonight. Sharmista?
Good evening. For those of you that I haven't met, I'm Sharmista Dutta, and I work in the Water Engineering Department. So as you're aware, the Franklin County Humane Society is building a new facility on city property at the end of Flint Avenue. The facility is a little over 11,000 square feet, and they recently celebrated their groundbreaking. They are currently working with review agencies in the city to finalize the plat and receive full approval for the land disturbance permit. The plat right now, it's a work in progress. It's continuously being reviewed and updated and should be ready for final approval in the near future. As far as it concerns the Frankfort Plan Board adjacent property, there's 4 items that will kind of affect us a little bit. I'm going to do a screen share here. So here's just the aerial overview, just kind of giving, here's the end of Flint Avenue. You can see the black outline of the road widening they're proposing, their parking lot, and the new Humane Society facility. And I'm going to switch over here to this utility plan. And then the 4 items I mentioned. First of all, if you've been back there, you know it's a single lane gravel road. So they'll be widening that road a portion. You can kind of see this gray shaded area is the road widening. Right here in this area right here is kind of there's sewer easements, there's storm. So there's several easements within this area. We've got fiber and cable a lot in this area somewhat too. So they're proposing, it's not finalized yet, but proposing just to turn this all into one wide, maybe 120-foot wide utility and access easement. So our property line is right along this line right here. So you can see how a little bit of this project will encroach on our property. The other item is we're going to do a water line extension project, which is this line right here, which will require a 20-foot wide easement on our property. And in addition, their grading work is going to require slight encroachments onto our property. So our property line goes right along here. And these 2 little areas, these dashed lines, show the parts that they're going to be encroaching for the grading work, which we'll get into that here in a few minutes. So as I said, it's continuously being updated. So once these items are all on a final plat, we'll provide that to the board for your review and approval. And if you guys have any revision requests or so forth, we'll address those as well. But in the meantime, they're trying to get their land disturbance permit. And I believe, from what I understand, they've received approval for the land disturbance within their property lines. But in order for them to get the full permit, they need approval from FPB as far as those encroachments areas. So with us tonight is Sam Marcus. He is the president of the Franklin County Humane Society, and Chris Howard, who's with Carmen. And Mr. Marcus is going to talk about the project, and Mr. Howard is going to talk about the grading part of it and why they need to encroach upon our property. So I can turn it over. Whoever wants to go first, Mr. Marcus or Mr. Howard, you can take the floor.
Okay, I guess I'll go first. Hi, everybody.
Hello,
thank
Mr.
you,
Marcus.
Sharmista. Appreciate the work you've done on the project for us and coordinating everything. Nice to be with everybody. Good to see you. I think I know most of you, or several of you certainly. Appreciate the opportunity to be here, and also glad that Chris Howard has joined me because Chris really will have the details from as far as how the design was developed and why the need is there for the encroachment on the grading. Although I can tell you that, as it turns out, and Chris will speak to this, that if we didn't have the grading or the encroachment and the ability to do the grading where it's specified, we could run into some flooding issues. And I think you all probably know how sensitive the Humane Society is to flooding issues, seeing as how we've been in the floodplain for 50 years and had 6 building floods. But the last thing we want on our new site is to is to encounter any flooding issues. So that's the primary reason for the encroachment, and is to avoid that. The project is actually, it's at the moment a $5.2 million contract. We're ready to go with construction as soon as we have the permitting in place. The land disturbance permit for our property is, we do have that. Our contractor hopefully will get started with construction in the very near future. And we do, other than a little bit of more money to raise, we're ready to go. So anything that the plant board can do to help us with our request would be greatly appreciated to facilitate the issue of the full building permit for the project. And I'd be glad to answer any questions anybody would have.
As I understand it, Sam, the part that you all need from us, which is on the land that's on the back part of where our admin building sits, it comes around there, that it's about 3,500 square feet. Is that right? I think Ben had told me that.
In this particular area, yes, it's about 3,500 square feet. And then there's this smaller one that's a little around 600 square feet.
And that would be on the back part of our property. And right now, we don't have anything on that. The plan was someday, as I remember it, when the city gave us that property to build the admin building on, there was discussion at some later date that someday we would move all of our operations onto that property. Is that correct?
Yes.
But right now, we don't have any current plans, budgeted, proposed, drafted, laying around or whatever to start building or moving anything there. That's just land right now that we still have for future use, but we don't have any current plans to do that. And this would be on the backside. How many, the part of land that we have, Sharmista, that's not developed, that's we're not using right now, about how big is that piece of property in terms of acres?
That's a good question. I think the total lot was about 30 acres. I don't have that right in front of me off the top of my head, so I can look that up for you though.
But is it a bigger piece of property than what we're sitting on right now with the admin?
Yes.
The part that's undeveloped is bigger than the property we're sitting on, right?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And they're talking 3,500 square feet, which is about the size of two ranch style homes, right?
I agree. Yes.
Okay. I'm sorry, Sam, I just wanted to confirm for everybody and put that in context. And you're not wanting to build on that property. You just need access to it for grading purposes and whatever. You're not wanting the property to build something right on that property line, but you need it for grading purposes and that for the project, right?
Yes, sir, that's correct. And Chris can probably address it a little better as far as the need and use. But really the grading so that the runoff from any water would be dispersed away from the new facility and especially the dog kennels and the dog runs that you can see around the facility. So yeah, and maybe it's a good time for Chris to to elaborate on that.
Yeah, sure, Mr. Can I share my screen?
David Columbia, he's the one kind of in charge of all the. Okay. There we go.
You all see my screen?
Yes.
So this is basically the same area that Sharmista had up. I just kind of colored it in and enlarged it a little bit so everybody can see it a little better. And really what we're trying to do, so your property is up in, the rest of the remaining of your property is here. We're trying to create these two swales here and here around. These are the dog runs here back in this area. So really we're trying to come up here a little bit on the high point and direct that water around those dog runs and the building itself. And then we've got a secondary swale down at the bottom, which takes off this piece. So I've got, if you looked at a profile through this blue line, I can kind of show you what that looks like. That's this right here. So we're looking at approximately, a 2-foot cut right here at the property line, and a little over 2 feet in this area, but that's basically it. So this is kind of the high point of the swell would be right here, and then it would flow around to each one of those drainage areas. And then this encroachment up here is roughly 52 feet long. And really that's just to improve, there's an existing swale that comes down off of your property that we are putting in a pipe here across our property. And so that's really just to get this head wall in here and to improve that ditch line, to get a little bit of storage space in here to allow that water to flow into that pipe. So those are really the two encroachments. And like you said, we're not, you know, it's not a building site, it's more just an excavation site.
Then I think Sharmista, you all both looked at it, and correct me if I'm wrong, Vint, that if at some future date, some future board wants to build there or do something, what do you see as any impact this would have on the plant board's plans if they ever wanted to build something on that site at a later date?
Yeah, I mean, it would be relatively small. The only concern I think the board might have is we would need to maintain our grading to interact with that to make sure we don't disrupt the water flow. So we would have to kind of work in concert with what they have there. I mean, you have to do that anyway at a property line. You can't just dump your drainage onto someone else, but that's the only thing. Again, doesn't mean the board that I have reservations or the board shouldn't do it. I'm just saying that would be the only impact. The other items we talked about, the roads and those issues with the easements, they're completely outside of anything that would impact the plant board's use, since they are currently easements and have utilities in them. So there'll be no concern with those. Again, those will come up later. But on this particular part, again, it's the board's pleasure. I would not derail you being able to use the property by and large. I do not believe.
Okay. Does anyone have questions for either Vint or Sam or Sharmista?
Mr. Chairman, it's Gary Zhang.
Yes, sir.
I like to ask when or Sharmay gave you a little detail for the first part beyond these two encroachment, the easement part in the front, which is potentially we agree on in the future, they could save them quite a bit of cost, correct?
Okay.
When, Sharmay?
Sure. Yeah, and I know Vince touched on this as well. We have, and I don't know if anybody from the cable department's on as well, but we have, I think, some existing cable lines out there that if there was originally on the plat, there was a 50-foot access easement designated south of our property line. That was hypothetically going to be for an entrance to the back properties, but now that we've got a facility about to be built and they started looking at it more closely, it was going to require some costly relocations if they were to put that road there. So that's why we wanted to work with them, let them widen the road. It can, onto our property just to try to help avoid those conflicts with those utilities and avoid those relocations if where possible.
Yeah, I think with some of the electric lines, the large lines that ran through some of those areas, if they continue the road where the original road access easement, to just replace those utilities and some telecommunication stuff, you're probably looking at over $100,000. So while the plant board is not contributing $100,000 to the Humane Society, they certainly are saving them quite a bit of money by using this access route that we have been working with them to try to establish. So I think it's very beneficial to, not only we don't have to move the facilities, but it also helps their bottom line and helps them, build more for what they're doing. So I think it's a good, it's a good neighborly thing to do and what to do. But I do want to make clear that tonight we're not trying to sign the easements for the road. Those are getting close to being complete. Tonight, basically what we need approval from the board for, if they want to do that, is for the encroachment, the two encroachment pieces, so we can get a memo on that and they can get their full permit. But both of these things would certainly be beneficial, certainly to the Humane Society and what they're trying to do. Any way we can help them to stretch their dollars, allow them obviously to do more.
Well, I know personally Sam has been incredible on this project, raising money, community support, and dedication to getting this done. So, Vin, I appreciate you and Sharmista and what everybody's done to try to work with them and help them, because this has been a project for the whole community for some time, and Sam's really worked hard on it. So, any other questions?
We appreciate.
John,
we appreciate what you all have done to help us. So thank you very much.
Sam, it looks like the building's already built behind you.
There it is.
John,
Yes, sir.
Mr. Chairman, for those of us, and I know Jason's new, and I don't know if Catherine went through this when we did stuff with the reservoir, and I just want to see if it enhances around the whole idea of us owning property. The city gives us property for our, for use of the plant board. Is it okay for us? Do we need any other approval to give away this easement or to allow this to happen? Does the city have to approve it, or are we in a position to do it ourselves? I'm 100% for it.
Yeah.
I'm just, that whole question of, can we own property? Do we own property? And what can we do with it? I just want to make sure that we're covered on that aspect of it.
Yes, sir. There's a deed to this property that's
okay.
deeded to the plant board.
Okay. So we actually own this one. We actually own this one outright, huh?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes,
good. Sir. Good. Mr. Chairman, it's in order. I'll make a motion to allow this drainage easement as directed in the agenda.
I have a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
We have a motion second. Do we have any further discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye.
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 All those opposed? Approved. Sam, good luck on your project.
Thank you all very much. Really appreciate the help.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
The item 6.2, consider revising FPB ethics policy, section M. Hans?
Yes, sir. Thank you. Good evening, everybody. If it would be okay, if I could take 6.2 and 6.3 sort of together, I'll kind of lead in with 6.3 here. Recently, in the last month or so, had some questions about how can we identify sort of unintended conflicts of interest, situations where folks might not be aware of an unintended situation, an unknown situation. So we enlisted the help of the board's ethics committee to kind of convene, and they put together some ideas there that are itemized there in 6.3, and we have the minutes from that meeting. Briefly, they recommended sort of the preparation of a vendor list. Leanne has completed that staff and board can review and say, hey, I see a company here that I'm doing business with personally, perhaps, and then they can go to their manager or go to the general manager, staff attorney, and see, is this situation actually, does it actually create an issue? So Leanne has that vendor list together. Second, they recommended kind of preparation of some training materials to share with the board and the staff. I had put together a memo that I'd circulated to the board and the ethics committee, and they had added some materials to that. In addition to that, they said, perhaps we want to reformat that list a little bit, that memo, into a brochure. Miss LeMaster had kind of a brochure that the executive branch folks get when they sign on. It kind of summarizes that. So maybe coming up with just some training materials to pass out. The third thing they suggested was a questionnaire that if someone does need help and say, I think I may have spotted an issue here, sort of a data sheet that the ethics committee can use to say, here's the situation, and here's the material that we can have the committee consider. And finally, development of some recurrent training, which sort of dovetails with the development of the training materials. And my thought was we could sort of pass that out perhaps when we pass out the financial disclosure forms that we do annually, and that those materials can go out together. So those were the items in 6.3 there, and 6.2 sort of related to that. The ethics policy, Ms. LeMaster reviewed there, and she suggested just some slight tweaking of the language in there, and that language is highlighted there for the board's review. But basically, it sort of broadens out the category of persons to where a conflict might arise to not only that employee or board member, but also someone else on their behalf, that a third party benefiting on behalf of the board or the staff members.
How would that, Hans, give an example of how that would be?
Say if you, the language says no Frankfort Electric Plant Board employee, member, or any other person for the employee or board members' use or benefit. So if you had a friend, perhaps, you know, something a little broader than your family member that was gaining a benefit or some type of you know, some type of gain from the board member or the staff member's position here at FPB, that would sort of encompass that situation. And the other recommendation Ms. Lemaster had was to add, as opposed to contract, or she added in the language or agreement, to encompass sort of a de facto understanding, something along those lines. So small changes, but good ones to sort of elaborate on the policy. So 6.2 and 6.3 were sort of related there. So would ask for a motion to approve the minutes of the ethics committee and a motion to approve revisions to ethics policy section M, and entertain any questions from the board. Thank you.
Okay, does anybody have some questions of Hans about it? Okay, are we looking at two motions here, Hans, or one?
Sort of from board's pleasure, but perhaps if we had two, we could make sure we have them delineated properly.
Okay.
But you could combine them if you'd like.
Well, let's take them one at a time. On item 6.2, do we have a motion on consider revising FPB ethics policy section M?
I make a motion to consider revising FPB ethics policy section M.
Okay, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye.
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 Those opposed? Policy is revised as proposed. Item 6.3, consider accepting the minutes of October 28th, 2021 FPB Ethics Committee. Do we have a motion?
So moved.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion second. Any further discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye.
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 Those opposed? Minutes are accepted. Item 6.4, since we just got done talking about Jill, her term is up, and as I understand it, Hans, she's eligible and would be interested in serving again. Obviously, if anybody else has any other nominations, we can consider them, but she has indicated she's willing to serve. She was the first actually started out part-time when it was a part-time position, and then became the first full-time director of the Executive Branch Ethics Commission, I think, under Governor Jones. So most of the state's ethics policies, rules, opinions, and that were done under her, and she's good, and I mean she is very good in this area. So
I'll make
she
the
is
motion.
interested in continuing.
Mr. Chair, I'll make the motion to reappoint Jill Lemaster.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion second. Any further discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye.
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 Those opposed? Ms. Lemaster is appointed to another term. I don't know if that's good news or bad news for Jill, but you can tell her, Hans, okay?
Yes, sir. Thank you all very much.
Real good. Next item, next level, Harvey.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
I feel better knowing you're on the agenda.
I took 1 month off and here I am.
Yeah, but you're coming back strong.
Staff recommends approval of the next level sports renewal. This is an NCTC agreement with a term through September 30th, 2024. The rates will remain flat throughout the rest of this year, and year-over-year increases are just over 4% annually. Those increases were anticipated. No increase to the Sports Plus rate will be required. No additional carriage requirements or obligations are included, and it has been reviewed by the Assistant GM for Administration and meets with his approval. I'd be happy to answer any questions on the next level sports renewal.
What channels are these?
This is channel 789. It's in the Sports Plus. They do international sports and more niche sports.
I stop at 98 or 99. That's all further I go. Does anybody have any questions for Harvey on this one? Do we have a motion?
Move approval of the extension of the next level sports contract.
Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion second. Any further discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion's approved to approve the Next Level Sports renewal. Next one, 6.5. We got to do the Hallmark because it's Christmas time, and the Hallmark Christmas movies are on. And I noticed Adam's been playing the Christmas music on the scrolling on Channel 2. So we're in full Christmas mode. So Harvey, you want to talk about this one?
Yes, sir. Staff and the Cable Advisory Committee recommend approval of the Hallmark channel renewal. This is another NCTC agreement with a term through October 31st of 2025. There's no immediate rate increase. The annual increase on January 1 is 7%, which is within our budgeted projections. Hallmark channel is on FPB Classic Cable Channel 64. This agreement also includes rights to Hallmark Movies and Mysteries and Hallmark Drama, which FPB carries on preferred cable. There's no additional cost to carry those two channels. Staff attorney has reviewed this agreement and meets with his approval, and I'd be happy to answer any questions on the Hallmark channel.
Catherine, you wanted to talk about the Christmas movies, didn't you?
I did. I would love the opportunity, if there's no discussion, to move approval for renewal of the Hallmark channel and make my mother-in-law very happy.
Mr. Chairman, I will second that because my mother-in-law will be very happy as well. I do have one question though, and this is real quick. Do we meet the carriage requirements for both channels or just for the regular Hallmark? On the two, there's a two-tiered pricing here that in our stuff.
Yes, that's a great question. So we do not meet the discounted rate today because we just carry Hallmark channel. I've had some conversations with the technical folks about the feasibility of moving one of those down and moving into that second that discount rate. And so I'll have more for you soon on that.
No problem.
For now, we're on that other one. But that's a great question. Thanks.
I will second the motion.
Okay, we got a motion and second. Do we have any further discussion?
John, I will say for retirees, that station can be addictive. So
Is there...
I'm not. I don't know what you're talking about.
I know you don't know that yet.
I'm in the office right now.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Those opposed? Christmas. We're going to have Christmas. Contracts approved. Item 6.7. Stop loss coverage and plan changes for 2022 employee health plan. Ms. Brown, you ready?
Yes, sir. Good evening, board chair and members of the board. It is that time again this year where I ask the board to consider renewing with our stop loss carrier. Staff recommends the board consider approving renewal with Pan American for the specific aggregate stop loss coverage for the 2022 FPB employee health plan. Our consultant, Cheryl Morgan, searched for competitive pricing, received responses from 3 stop loss carriers. Our current stop loss carrier, Pan American, offered the best overall option for the stop loss coverage when an additional liability corridor is considered. To reduce premium expenses, Cheryl Morgan recommended that we accept the additional liability of $200,000 aggregated specific deductible. With the $200,000 aggregated specific deductible option, specific stop loss premiums will increase $75,420 annually. See highlighted sections of the renewal comparison proposal spreadsheets in the detail pages. With the self-funded health plan, the specific stop loss coverage reimburses FPB in the event any covered individual has claims exceeding the specific deductible of $100,000. The aggregated stop loss coverage reimburses FPB if the total claims expense for the entire group exceeds expected total claims by more than 25%. One or more health plan members must meet the additional aggregating specific deductible of $200,000 before the carrier is responsible for reimbursement of claims expenses above the individual specific deductibles. In addition, Cheryl Morgan also searched for competitive pricing for a third-party administrator. We received responses from 3 TPAs, and our current TPA, MedBen, offer the best overall option. Rates for a third-party administrator with MedBen administration fees are guaranteed through December of 2022. Below our charts with the estimated expenses for the calendar year for the renewal with Pan American and MedBen. Also, there's an additional chart that shows the employee payroll contributions. No changes are recommended to the employee payroll contributions for the 2022 planned health year. Staff asked the board to approve the renewal of stop loss coverage for the 2022 planned health year. Does the board have any questions?
Two questions I've got, Michelle. One, I guess either you or David Denton, the cost of our plan for this coming year, as compared to what we had budgeted, is that within, are we basically where we thought we'd be, David or Michelle?
It is. We had budgeted $3.1 million, so we're right on the money with the estimated expected claims plus fixed cost.
And if I'm one of our employees out there tonight and I'm hearing this discussion, what does all this mean for me?
As for the employees, no changes to our employee contributions. So if whatever you were contributing for 2021, it will remain the same for 2022. So no increases whatsoever. And pretty much no plan changes. Everything that I discussed tonight is mainly behind the scenes for the administration of the plan.
Okay. Does anybody have any questions of Michelle? I know y'all worked really hard at trying to put this together and save money. So, questions?
I just had a general question.
Yeah.
On average, or has there been a situation where this has been stop loss has been triggered in the past?
Yes, sir. And actually, for our previous year, we did have some claims that did go above the higher $100,000 specific deductible, where stop loss reimbursed the plan. So it's common that happens, and that's the purpose of stop loss, to stop our loss at a certain amount. So yes, we did have several claims that were above the 100 specific deductible.
Thank you.
Any other questions for Michelle? Okay, if not, do we have a motion?
So moved.
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
We have a motion and second. Any further discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Contract approved. Michelle, thank you for all your work on this. I know you really put in the time and really worked hard on this, so thank you.
Thank you. Have a good evening.
Item 6.8, consider executing contract with Gannett Fleming, Inc. to conduct a water cost of service and rate design study for a cost not to exceed $25,000. David Billings and David. And I think
Yes,
we've
sir.
always known that at some point we're going to have to proceed in this area. So you want to kind of tell us what we got here?
Yes, sir. The last water cost of service utilized to adjust retail water rates was performed by Gannett Fleming in 2015. The goal of staff is to conduct cost of service studies as necessary to ensure our revenue requirements are being properly addressed. Over the next few years, the water department's capital funding requirements will increase due to additional borrowing for the reservoir as well as AMI. As a result, a cost of service study is prudent. As a matter of course, Gannett Fleming has provided a proposal for a cost of service study and rate design not to exceed $25,000. The proposal and the contract are included in the detail and been forwarded to the staff attorney for his review. The department budgeted $25,000 in this year's budget for the work. Staff recommends the board approve the contract with Gannett Fleming at a cost not to exceed $25,000. I'll be happy to answer any questions.
At this point, David, when was the last time, and this contract, we are not raising rates in this contract, it's the study, right?
It's just a study, that's correct.
And when was the last time our rates went up? I know some of our competitors' rates have gone up several times. When's the last time we raised rates on water?
I've got it right here in front of me. We had a rate increase that went into effect in 2018.
Okay.
John, I've got a question.
Yes, sir.
David, I know the water has, there's the rates you pay for water, and then there's the standard charge. I think it's like $9 that, I think ours is about $9 that you pay just
Yes,
for
sir.
the service. Where does that $9 sit in relation to like Kentucky American and Louisville Water? And do you have any idea about where we sit on that?
Yes, sir.
And when was the last time that was? When was the last time that was increased?
That was implemented in 2018.
Okay.
That's what you're referring to is called the customer service charge.
Yeah.
Currently, Kentucky American's sitting at $15 customer service charge, and we're sitting at $9 for a 5/8" meter. That's primarily where I see this going, is trying to keep our consumption-based rates close to what they are now. There may be some change for the board to consider as a result of this study, but I do see the cost of the customer service charges being increased to reflect that. And it's more of a move away from consumption-based rates, more to a fixed-based, because the majority of our costs are fixed, unlike some other utilities. The water department specifically, a lot of our costs, approximately, I would guess 85 to 90% of our costs are fixed.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. Any other questions of David?
Mr. Chair, so
Yes.
Just for clarification, the cost of service study, it would make recommendations on both the rate and the customer service charge?
It is going to make recommendations on increasing the revenue to meet our forecasted revenue requirements. So it will look at expenses versus revenue, and it will make an adjustment. It will also give us and the board some indication as to where we might adjust those across the different rate classes based on the cost of service to study those individual rate classes.
Okay, thank you.
And from a competitive standpoint right now, David, how does our water prices compare?
We continue to be below Kentucky American, but above the Bluegrass Area Development average for water rates.
Okay.
Which is to be expected with the amount of work that we have done in the last 10 to 15 years at the water treatment plant, as well as in the distribution system. Same goes with a lot of the other work we've got going on.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Any other questions for David? If not, do we have a motion? Remember, this is not to increase water rates. This is just for the study.
Mr. Chair, I'll make a motion to authorize up to $25,000 approval of a contract for a water study.
Okay, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and second. Any further discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye.
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 Those opposed? Approved to conduct the study. Thank you, Mr. Billings.
Thank you.
And next is informational item number 7.1. I asked Hans to put this on here. We don't have anything in front of us tonight. As you all probably know, it's not a day goes by there's not something in the paper, either a news story about litigation or what employers may or may not do. And we've got two things out there. We got the president's executive order, and then we have the OSHA requirement. And we do get federal funds from several sources, EBB, the Tiger Grant. We'll probably try to get federal funds in relation to broadband. So there could be federal funds coming on the charging station. So we're definitely impacted by whatever policy comes down and will affect us and our employees. So Hans, you want to kind of give us the lay of the land and what a timeline and what we may be looking at doing?
Yes, sir. Well, I'll sort of give you a rundown from the most recent. Everything I wrote there in the board package has been suspended. And on November the 12th, the Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals, which is Texas, stayed everything there and said that OSHA doesn't have the authority to implement this rule. And then OSHA, the agency itself, put out a statement and said that we're not going to take enforcement action on this rule until everything gets sorted out in the courts. So while we were, the group had been working to implement all of the requirements that we wrote about there, we have, getting our policy together, getting our testing plan put in place, figuring out. I know that Nichelle was working on a way that we could get vaccination records uploaded into Kronos. We're not so much under the gun right now to get that done by December the 6th. What happens now is there is a lottery. Since all this has been challenged amongst the various federal circuits, there's multi-district litigation rules, And so they select a federal circuit to review the case by random. And I just pulled up a post here that just came up an hour ago. It says the Sixth Circuit Court of Appeals, which of course is our circuit, which is Kentucky, Tennessee, Ohio, and Michigan. Sixth Circuit won the ping pong ball lottery. It was literally a ping pong ball where they're going to draw a ping pong ball and pick your court to review by that. So pretty much a random drawing. The Sixth Circuit, the judges they have 8 Democratic appointees and 20 Republican appointees. So that's sort of the makeup of that court. Don't have any notes here on when it when it would be heard, what how fast it'll move through the Sixth Circuit. But once it gets done with the Sixth Circuit, it'll go up to the U.S. Supreme Court. But the short answer for us is, while we're still going to keep going, working to get our record keeping, get our policies in place, we're not so much under that December the 6th deadline right now, unless of course it gets all the way up to the Supreme Court by then, which I really don't think that will move that quickly. But of course, you never know. So that's the most recent news there, and pretty recent too. That just came out about an hour ago, I think. So
let me ask you, Hans, 2 things. One, I know you've checked, and you've been very diligent checking with like the local school board, city, county government, state government. Everybody is doing exactly what we're doing. Is that my understanding, kind of in a wait and see?
Yes, sir. I know that Nichelle spoke with some folks at OMU. When I talked with the personnel cabinet, talked with them, and they said that they were doing the same thing. This was before the rule issued, and then I haven't had a chance to talk with them after the court stated. But I would suspect that everybody that was taking a wait and see approach is still taking that approach. I know I believe Darren spoke with his contacts at the city and the county. They're taking that same approach. So I think everybody will probably continue to work to develop their policies, but they still won't have to move with that kind of frantic sort of pace that get all this put into place. I've done a little more research with the executive order that you all that you mentioned earlier. As far as are you getting federal money? Are we getting broadband money and that kind of thing? The sort of the fine print, for lack of a better term, references a simplified acquisition threshold. There are various levels for your EEO requirements, which is what this is keyed off of. And usually it's called the 50-50 rule. If you got 50 employees and $50,000 in contracts with federals, you're there. You're doing your EEO work, which is what we do, which is kind of what I looked at initially. But also look through the language in this executive order, and it references what's called a simplified acquisition threshold, which is typically $250,000, which is a much higher level. And Taylor, our IT whiz, he ran a report for me with the federal buildings here, and they don't pull that much on the 250 side. So I think we're pretty good on the.
So right now President Biden's executive order is not applicable to us.
That's unless there are other federal funds that we're keying in on that I'm not aware of. Those buildings that Taylor pulled for me are less than that 250. I think they're about 125, 150ish maybe. So
okay.
So I think we're in good shape. I'll let Kim and Nichelle jump in there. I know Kim has done a lot of work. She's looked through some of the OSHA templates. The rule had some sample policies that were attached to that. And I know Nichelle's talked with some people at OMU about what they're doing too. So I'll let them jump in there and make whatever comments they feel are important.
I really don't have much to add other than I think at this point the wait and see approach is prudent. We, if it's to come, if they do uphold the ETS, then we will have things where we can get things in order pretty quickly. But other than that, I agree that the wait and see approach is the way to go.
And this affects your retirement, right? Because you can't leave till this is all.
I'm just hoping it, whatever happens, waits until the end of January.
I didn't have much to add either. Dana from OMU reached out to me and she was just interested in what FPB was doing. And this was prior to the extension. And they were working on policies, trying to get testing together, but they had planned to get a census or a roster of who was vaccinated and who wasn't vaccinated at OMU. So they were pretty much in line with what we were planning on doing as well.
So at this point, everything is kind of stayed and we're just kind of in a wait and see. That's correct, right, Hans?
Yes, sir. That's
So
accurate.
does anybody have any question? I mean, we originally thought we were probably going to have a discussion tonight to try to maybe have a policy ready by early December that would have to be implemented in January. And then we probably have to have a special meeting. But right now, we're just, like you said, it's informational. We're just waiting to see what happens next. So does anybody have any questions of Hans or Michelle? Okay, if not, Hans, thanks for the information. Keep us posted and
Yes,
informed
sir.
on what's going on. But yeah, I mean, if it's got to go through the Sixth Circuit and then on up to the Supremes, I mean, it could be well into next year.
Sure.
Unless they take it, I mean, they could obviously take it immediately and look at it, but.
Sir, I think it's a fair statement. Yes, sir.
Yeah. Okay. Next one, General Manager comments. Mr. Manager?
Mr. Chairman, I really don't have much, but we do have a very good news. Our team won a very distinguished award in the APPA. I would definitely let Cassie, I mean, I just briefly let you know the APPA, American Public Power Association, which is an all municipal joint national association. They have a more than 2,200 member. So I'm so glad our team win the award on that. I probably let Cassie go to detail. Her group really done the good work win this award. Thank you, Cassie.
Thank you so much. Yeah, I just wanted to really give a shout out to our team and specifically to Scott Stafford, who produced the spot the particular spot that we won for, which was the one with the lineman that had Chuck talk about his work as a lineman. Again, this was a campaign that focused on being community powered and the power of being publicly owned. Again, our tagline was customer owned, customer known. And we had a series of those spots that highlighted our employees. And again, we were awarded, the Excellence in Public Power Communications from APPA, and we got that award at the conference last month. And again, these are, there's public power utilities from all over the country there. So we're really happy to win that award. And now we've decided we're going to go back next year and try to win them all. So, so again, I mean, not only does this go to our team, but it goes because it was representative of our employees with really that focus on being community powered and being part of a community. And that's something that, we talk about when we go to those conferences, all the people who are working in communications for public power talk about how important it is to be engaged in the community and part of the community. And that's something that we're trying more and more to do and become involved in with partnerships with different organizations here in town. And again, I feel like, we've made a lot of strides in the last few years, and now we just kind of have that goal to just do even better and do even more for the next year. So again, thanks to our team, thanks to our employees, and thanks to you all for supporting us and letting us go do these things. And we look forward to more to come.
Well, thank you. And I mean, for everything you all are doing, I mean, everything you all doing, the round 10, everything is really first class, really good. Are y'all still gonna be able to do the mini series on Steve Mason's life?
Well, we've started storyboarding it, so
it's such an extensive life too.
And I will say, and this was mentioned in our staff meeting this morning about the show, about how it is growing and it is becoming more and more prominent with people in our community. Now we have people who are, when we first started, we really had to work to try to get guests to come on the show. Now we have people calling us wanting to be on the show. and there's a waiting list now for things that are happening, and they want to come on and talk about different things, you know, going on in the community. And so we're starting to get booked pretty quick now. So we're just really excited that the community is really enjoying that and wanting to be a part of it. And we just, again, hope that that continues to grow and will be a bigger part of our community as well.
Thank you. Next item is number 9, informational item, old and new. And before Jason does his, I'd just like to mention that we're probably going to change our regular board meeting in December and do it probably that Friday. I think, Kathy Poe, that's the 17th, isn't it? That Friday?
Yes, sir. It's December 17th, and I believe we all settled on the 2 o'clock time.
Okay, and that way we won't be having a board meeting during the week of Christmas, and that way staff and that will have that week where they don't have to be preparing for this and can make whatever plans. So we'll be finalizing that, but that will be a special meeting because it's different than a regular board meeting, but that will be our regular board meeting that month. So next is Jason. As you all know, the City Commission recently passed a resolution regarding the community not relying on fossil fuels. And Jason has been working real close with Gary and the staff, Kathy Lindsay, to meet with some of the city officials to get a better feel on their ideas.
Here you go, bud.
Pardon?
That's fine. Here.
Okay. So Jason, you want to kind of give us an update on what's going on and kind of what's floating out there and what next steps may be?
Okay. Yep. Thank you very much. We had a good meeting last week with Commissioner Kelly and the new city manager. Thankfully, they were nice enough to take about 2 hours to sit down with us, kind of talk through the intent of the resolution. It was me, Gary, Kathy, and Ben Foster. And let us just really get a chance to ask some questions and get an understanding of what they're trying to achieve, their time frame for achieving it within, you know, obviously, and also the major intent is this is really an aspirational, non-binding resolution. They made that very clear, but they also wanted to take the opportunity to really get out and plant that flag in the community, showing that Frankfort is very oriented toward this type of vision. Personally, I do a lot of work in this area, and I'm also very supportive of communities and entities taking this opportunity to do this. So we talked through kind of next steps and how the plant board could potentially be a partner, could support these efforts. A couple things that came up in that discussion was forming a community work group to be able, from different entities in the community, to be able to really talk about, you know, rubber meets the road, how to make something like this happen. Also, there was conversations maybe looking at the city of Louisville. They've recently brought on an outside consultant, NREL, to a similar resolution. NREL is a federal agency, is kind of the gold standard of renewable energy in the country, to talk about, have them do an analysis, different scenario building on how a community like ours could move toward goals like this and could start to achieve these things. At the same time, Gary did a very good job kind of laying out the plant board's position and sort of considerations that the city should think about and sort of trying to move forward with these kind of ideas. At the same time, I want to make clear that we also wanted to tell the city that we want to also tell the stories of the plant board and also the community. We've made a lot of good strides on a lot of good fronts. Obviously, in this conversation tonight, we've already talked about community solar efforts. So this resolution is definitely aspirational, but I don't want the good work that has already been done to be lost with just kind of looking so far in the future. And Ashwood is another good example. So we had a really good conversation. Happy to take questions from other board members on, obviously it's a 2-hour conversation, so a lot of other things were kind of talked out. Happy to answer any questions anyone would have.
Jason, what do you see the cities what actions are we looking at, and or what's the city looking at as their next steps? Now they've done the resolution, so what happens next?
We've asked them to reach out to the city of Louisville as another sister city to ask them for the proposal that they gave to NREL, the scope of work really around their analysis. That analysis, I think it was 30,000, was with the city of Louisville. I would expect a community of our size compared to Louisville, maybe a slightly lower price tag for something like that. Also in parallel, Ben Foster's gone ahead and reached out to NREL. And I think we have a conversation next week with them and their staff to kind of get a better idea from the NREL side. So hopefully between the city reaching out to the city of Louisville and kind of getting their experience and us reaching directly out to NREL to see what they offer, we can kind of meet back up and discuss next steps and what's possible there. We also talked about a work group, forming a work group, what the structure could look like, what the timing could look like. Would you form a work group after an initial part of the study was already done? So everybody's kind of working from the same numbers and everybody's kind of in the same, on the same page? Or would you form the work group in parallel? Would the work group help inform kind of a phase 2 output, kind of as part of the NREL process? So we talked about a lot of that. But I think that the big picture is the city was excited that they passed that resolution 5-0, which is very impressive, and that now is an ideal for the community. And I'm excited personally that the plant board could potentially play a role in helping sort of bring that together while also protecting our rates to our customers and making sure the community is served in the way that you guys have done such a good job in the past.
So if the city would proceed with getting an NREL or anyone else, but like you said, they're a federal agency, they've done this work for other cities, that would basically kind of flesh out the city's resolution in terms of feasibility, cost, timelines, market, technology, all those type things, to say this is possible, this is what the timeline might look like, what the cost, different ways to get there and so forth. Is that right?
That's right. And in my personal experience doing this for clients, scenarios are really important because, you can do anything. It's just how much is it going to cost? Mm-hmm. So looking at different scenarios, maybe a high cost scenario, a low cost scenario, a high impact scenario, a short scenario, a quick, a long-term scenario. Obviously, all of those things can be taken into account with a nice comprehensive study. We felt that in the meeting, it was nice to have a group outside of the community, maybe even outside of Kentucky, who can bring some fresh ideas and different kind of optics to the table. Might help and also bring the best methodologies and experiences throughout the whole country would maybe be good, especially for something so innovative and cutting edge.
Okay. Does anybody have any questions of Jason or Gary or Vint about the meeting or I think everybody's seen the city resolution, and so at this point our role is, we've indicated we're willing to talk with them, work with them, participate in this process. Obviously, we've got a lot of information, and our people have done, like you said, an incredible job and are ahead of, pretty much every community in Kentucky in terms of getting higher renewables. So, anybody have any questions of Jason? There's no action we have to take tonight. It's basically, we're just keeping us informed and working through you and Vint and Gary and Kathy to get the information out to the board. So when we have to have more discussions, everybody has the information. Okay. At this point, thanks, Jason.
Chairman?
Thanks for, yes, sir.
I would like to move on to the next item on the agenda and move to have the chair call closed session pursuant to KRS 61-810-1C, discuss both pending litigation regarding an OSHA matter and an easement matter.
That's a motion?
Yes, sir.
Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a second. Anybody object? If not, all those in favor of a closed session, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed? We're going into closed session. Mr. Columbia, you want to let us know when we're clear? Do we have a motion to come out of closed session?
So moved.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion second. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? We're out of closed session. Do we have a motion as a result of the closed session?
Mr. Chairman, I have a motion. In regards to the closed session, I would like to authorize the staff, I would make a motion to authorize the staff attorney to proceed as directed in the closed session in both the OSHA matter and in the easement matter.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Any discussion on that motion? If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion's adopted. Do we have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Do we have a second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
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 We're adjourned. Happy Thanksgiving.
All right.